Shendelman, a 2012 fellow in Nonfiction.
This is an excerpt from a story I've been working on since I got here, tentatively titled In Defense of Giving Up on a New City, but that's subject to change. Just a single point of clarification that there's a character in here named This Boy, so that might get confusing. Bear with me. Tonight you introduce yourself to Skylar in the smoking corridor outside a Center City gay bar. He's fishnet and purple lipstick, a wild, sweaty nest of deep brown hair and sideburns. At midnight, he turns 23, and by 1 a.m., you have spent the last 2 years of his life kissing him and running your fingers over the mesh holes of his shirt, nipples sprouting up like grass through a chain link fence. You ask, "You know I'm trans, right?" And he does. He also knows every pop song, and without thinking, you drag your thumb through his melting eyeliner, leaving a cleaner brush stroke of black. He looks as though something soft inside of him has been crushed. I've always needed someone to do that for me. And then a tender, overwhelmed, "Where have you been?" This chance meeting sits in the void left behind from the last legendary encounter, not filling it per se, but subletting the wound. When you are honest with yourself, there's something hollow in the way you encourage him, your unspoken promises, the thumb below his eye, the birthday kisses, the interlaced knees and inseparable hips. There's a Japanese phrase you can't remember in the moment, the state and tension of undeveloped yet imminent love, a love not quite catalyzed but looming, poised to strike. 3 days later, he follows you home from a house party. His floral Laura Ashley dress catches you off guard and something sours guiltily within you. His posture is a familiar city you've been avoiding. You want to be okay with this. Feminine is not the issue, but womanly still feels raw. You have to be okay with this. After a failed attempt to fit your red bicycle into his back seat, he drives slowly behind you up Baltimore Ave as you pedal vigorously. Last summer, this boy had a number of rotting teeth that made his skull pound, seemingly on the verge of implosion. His forehead was embedded with a deep, permanent crease betrayed by the failing body that kept him from eating or sleeping with any efficacy. His tongue would strike without warning when you spoke before breakfast, when you suggested a doctor, when you offered to help, when you didn't. For weeks, the only thing that relieved the pain was late-night runs through the jagged dirt roads surrounding the summer camp where you were both working. Afraid of bears, snakes, or tripping on fallen branches, he conceded to letting you illuminate his path with your headlights. You drove slowly, crackling over pebbles with the radio off and the high beams on. He filled the windshield, heels kicking up clouds of dirt, elbows pumping at his side, knit cap bouncing softly at the base of his neck. The way the road rose and sank, angling your lights between his ankles, and a streak of thick forest beyond him. The world was like that summer, passing by in heavy strips, encircling his every move. In your bedroom just after midnight, Skylar unlaces his docks and unbuttons his dress to crawl into your bed, the first in Philadelphia to occupy it outside of your weekly femme dates with this boy. Every Thursday you'd reenact the old routine, a meal, a movie, a manicure, a shared pipe, and the inevitable sleepy conclusion when you were too tired to drive him home. Half awake, in the middle of the night, you'd throw an arm over his waist and he'd scoot back against your pelvis, sighing heavily, and sometimes even resting his arm on yours. 4 hours later, Skylar hovers between your pale thighs and cautiously asks, "Do you trust me?" And sleepy and warm, you do. You really do. When you pick up this boy from the airport a few days later, you tell him about the messily gendered creature who'd been inside you, pointedly skipping your concerns for their wardrobe. You say, "I'm going to see him again next week." You don't say, "His body felt like the missing piece." You say, "I'm crushing hard." You don't say, "He almost felt like coming home." You don't need to. This boy smiles supportively, sad-eyed and self-sacrificing. You suppose you've looked like this for the past few months, and a small, ugly part of you swarms with delight.